Hey everyone, in this episode we're going to take a look at Venom, where we're exploring the character Venom, Tom Hardy's performance, and the story. All that and more in episode 82 of the Reel-ists Podcast. Welcome Team Reel-ists. I'm Oscar.
I'm Donnie.
And we have our producer here as well.
Hello.
And welcome to this episode. We'll be exploring Venom. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you already know what to do. What do, Donnie?
They gotta press pause. Oh no, they left the episode play, and then they go watch the movie, and then they come back, and then they press play again.
Exactly. Double the views, or double the counts. But yes, we just want to say thank you to everyone that has listened to any of our episodes. If this is your first episode, welcome. We hope you enjoy it and stay tuned for more. If this is your any other visit after the first,
Second, third, fourth, fifth,
2 to 82,
82nd.
we appreciate every single minute that you spend with us. And yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on our episodes, on our podcast overall. So definitely leave your comments on YouTube or iTunes. And yeah, we just love to hear your feedback, so we'd appreciate it. So before we go into the nitty-gritty of this episode, we just want to remind everyone that is spoiler talk. So if you haven't seen it, be prepared for some spoiler discussion. Might make you want to go see it, maybe. I don't know. Does that work for some people? Can some people get the movie spoiled and then go see it?
I don't know. I mean, yes, there are people that I'm sure love that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but who knows?
We'll see. But yes, all right. So, Donnie, as always, kick us off with those initial thoughts.
So, let me give you some initial thoughts I had. I loved the movie. No, I did like it. I thought Venom was cool. I'm not gonna lie. I from what I got from the trailer and how I felt like it was projected at me, I felt like we were gonna get a more darker film. I know it wasn't rated R. I got that. But I was still hoping, there are some PG-13 films that have some more cursing and more graphic things that make you go, oh my God, this is rated PG-13. Wow. So I was thinking it was going to be like that. I thought it was going to be more darker. I thought Venom was going to be more vicious and more gruesome. But it stayed pretty true to like the PG-13 rating. Nothing too crazy, nothing too over the top. So maybe I should have not thought I was going to get that. But I did like Venom. I liked the character Venom. I liked Tom Hardy in this film. It was good. It was a good movie. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. I just thought it was good.
Okay. All right. So in case you're not aware of this movie, Venom is when Eddie Brock acquires the powers of a symbiote, he will have to release his alter ego Venom to save his life, which stars Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Riz Ahmed, and is directed by Ruben Fleischer. Not this Ruben, just in case you're wondering. Just in case you're that 1% that thought for a second.
Wow.
So I just typed in Venom on the search bar, and one of the articles that somebody wrote, it says, "We love how stupid the Venom movie is."
That's funny.
And it's like, I'm laughing because I was telling you in the theater after we saw it, I felt like it took no work mentally to watch this movie. I felt like they said, okay, we're gonna go with the assumption that like a 12 or a 13-year-old teenage boy is gonna be our general audience, and that's how we're gonna make this film. Like it didn't take any work. I didn't have to really tune in specifically or really finely pay attention. It was just kind of given to me in a kind of cookie cutter type of superhero film.
With the thing that there is like a lot of footage that was cut out. So maybe some of your darkness that you were thinking is probably in those deleted scenes. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to get any kind of director's cut or anything that would add that darkness to it. But yeah, no, I mean, it definitely was very generic in its story. And I think that did a lot of damage to moments that could have been great, moments that could have made this really stand out. It's very interesting because Marvel has a lot of movies very similar to that, where it's not anything that you need to put your mind to, or you need to really kind of think about it. A lot of times it's very simple storylines that you follow. The only thing is at this point, because you've seen so many, you have an investment to it, so that's why you get like those feelings when a character doesn't appear or you see something happen. So that I feel like that's what's established. And Venom is still so early in its stage where, we just got introduced to this. We know it's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we can't be like, where does this all fit in? A lot of it's just like, it's a whole different layout. Potentially with Spider-Man in the future, hopefully. That would be cool if they did do that. But no, this movie was good. I really did enjoy it for what it was, which unfortunately didn't do enough to make it more than enough. It was just where it was, here's your Venom character. Here's your generic villain. Here's the love interest.
And the villain, I mean, talk about generic. I mean, he wasn't villainous to me at all. I mean, from what it seemed like, it just looked like I was watching this rich guy who he had all this money, and he was just this greedy rich man who wants to skip all the steps and all the safety precautions to advance this life form and use it to his advantage and wield it to what he wants to do, like any other villain. Like that's what a lot of these villains are. They're these like people that have money, they own their own tech companies, they have their own team of scientists, they find this technology or this life form and they want to harvest it, and it's like the same. So I didn't get anything different or new from it.
Right. And I think there was two villains. There was Carlton Drake, who was this business guy that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And then there was Riot, who was the symbiote, who was actually the actual match to Venom. I will say, but despite all saying all this, there is an entertainment to it. Where yes, you're sitting back and watching it, but you're just like, all right, I can watch this. There's nothing that distracts you that says, okay, this is not making sense, I'm tuning out, or this is just boring, I'm not getting hooked.
Right.
Tom Hardy is managing your attention very well throughout the entire movie, at least to the point where you're intrigued to follow him. I wouldn't say that for the other characters, for Michelle Williams and for Riz Ahmed, but I think Tom Hardy, I mean, he's the main character, and he at least is doing enough with it. I don't know if the other performances, if they were as elevated as he was, at least if they were on the same page as him, if it would have brought a better experience to this movie. Because a lot of it, again, was going back to the storyline being simple, where you know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's like if you take a movie 101 course, you'll be able to say, like, this is an example of, this is how you do plot points, this is how you do love interest, this is how you do a villain.
Yeah, like it was just pretty.
It was very, very mid 2000s style comic book movie.
It was a template. It was a template film.
Yeah, and it's one where fortunately, again, it's kind of tough to say because there's some behind the scenes going around where at first they wanted it to be that dark style, and you're going to see Venom actually probably chewing heads off and see all that gory and stuff, but they scaled it back down for the hope. And I say hope because they were going to see the box office numbers, that Spider-Man can intertwine with Venom. Which I will say, because Venom, the character, not Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, but Venom, the character itself, is fascinating. I do want to see him interact with Spider-Man. Because that would be really fun to just hear his commentary, and Spider-Man's quick banter, just going back and forth, would really do a very well job.
Yeah.
Keeping you entertained. And then the other thing was that I wanted to mention, actually I wanted to bring up at least and see what you thought, Donnie, was this planet that symbiotes exist, apparently, where they came from.
Yeah.
Which we don't know. We don't know anything about that. The only thing we know is that a spaceship came to Earth here. So it kind of feel like you had, that left you with questions that kind of was just like, so you're saying that a planet full of these things can just come and, take over? Because to me, that was like a little bit of like, wouldn't that be a bad thing that if they know the Earth is here and they want to go back? Like, because that was the intention that Riot had. He wanted to take Venom back to this planet. And I was just like, is how far away is this planet?
Yeah, seriously.
Is it Mars? But yeah, did any of that, like the background of the symbiote, did any of that interest you, or did you just not get hooked by any of that?
No, I did. It did interest me because I was like, well, I wanted to know how because it seems like they kept saying like it needs to bond with someone and it needs a host, and I don't know if it needed it, but like that's how it comes to be or whatever.
They said they.
So it's like, I want to know this planet. Is it just like, because it's when the symbiote isn't bonded with the host, it's just this kind of free-formy, gooey, plasma-like blurb of whatever material kind of rolling around, gelatinously. And so I'm like, is that what the whole planet looks like? It's just covered with all this material, this kind of blubbery, gelatinous material, and everything's just constantly kind of wiggling around and moving around like that. I really was thinking that, because I'm like, and how did you? I mean, I had a lot of questions. I'm like, how did you know? How, like, what was the first interaction? Like, what was the first contact made? Like, how did the scientists? Because they captured 3 of them, right? Like, or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And it was like in a comet or a meteor they were on or something like that. So it's like, how did they?
Is that a vacation for them?
I know. Like, what were they doing on that thing? Like, how did that happen? How did those things jump on that comet or meteor? And so I'm just, and how did the scientists like know? Or maybe they didn't know, they were just trial and error perhaps, but like, how did they know that the container that they put it in would hold it, and just all these little technical scientific questions that I had.
But yeah, fascinating to see.
And then, another thing I wanted to see is, so I'm just going off the assumption that when a symbiote, whatever, attaches to a host, that whatever the host's native language is, that they can speak it. That's my assumption, because Venom just knew how to speak English, like is that their native language back on their home planet? I don't think so.
That's probably the name. Yeah, I don't think.
Here's what I found on.
I don't think. Whoa, Siri knows everything. I don't think that's what the intention was in terms of like, if he gets into a host body that speaks Spanish, it's only going to speak Spanish. I think it's just one of those comic book things where it's coincidentally, just like the planet that's 2 billion miles away, just
they
also happens to speak English.
I know, right? Or like Thor and like
exactly. And Asgard, they all speak English.
Everyone speaks English.
Ignoring like their mythology, but
Guardians of the Galaxy, some of them speak English.
So
it's like, okay, yeah.
I feel like it's tough to say, because if that movie did have its own language and you had subtitles, it's a different movie. You have a different experience than if it was English. So I understand why they always make it simple and they don't really try to be like,
for sure.
I'm using your mental mind to understand what you say. Kind of like, they could quickly get rid of that and just say like, oh yeah, I quickly scanned your brain and I know what language you speak and I know all the words. More than you do now. Well, I don't know. But
I mean, I would have liked that if they threw that in there, but it's fine. I mean, they don't have to do that, I guess. It's just implied. It's one of those things that's just implied.
At this point, when the first alien makes contact here on Earth, it's going to be, don't worry, guys, they speak English. We can do this. So
speaking of, I mean, I really did. It was really interesting. The symbiotes themselves are really interesting, and one of my critiques. Let me just go into one of my critiques, and we both shared the same one. I think is, it's not a perfect match every time when they come in contact with the host. So a lot of the times when it comes in contact with the person ends up dying, and like the match isn't there. And same thing with animals. They were testing it first with animals and on bunnies, and a lot of them were dying, and then they finally got a match with one bunny. So then they said, let's move to human trials. So then they started testing it with humans, and humans were dying left and right. But then it's like, it ended up matching with a few of them, and then it's like we got
a series of hits.
Like, okay, it matched with this person, it matched with that person, it matched with this person. Brock, so I'm like, damn, this one's just matching with everyone then. So I was kind of like, if you're telling me that it was not matching with anyone and everyone was dying, so I was a little peeved by that.
Yeah, but, it forgot
that's just me being
its
nitpicky.
Role, and then started to just be like, oh yeah, I matched with you. Like Riot hopped all the way from the crash site to San Francisco, taking different hosts, which you're kind of, at that point, you're just like, how did you know this was going to be a good host? Like, did you adjust? What did you do? And they never also said exactly what's the consequence after it leaves your body. Do you remember that it was in your body? Are you weak? Are you dying? Or are you dead? Do you die? I don't think it kills you, but I think they didn't cover any of that, which would be interesting to see. When Eddie Brock disconnected from it, he seemed like it was just back to normal. Like it was just like, all right, it's in the same way that it's like, oh, my powers aren't working right now. Oh no.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. They could have explored that. It's very hard to say because this story is trying to go with its own story without Spider-Man. Venom is so associated with Spider-Man. That's like saying they made a movie called Robin and there's no Batman in it. It's just like,
yeah, they don't exist in the same universe,
right? And it's kind of just like, well, that has to tie in.
They made a Patrick movie and there's no SpongeBob.
Right, exactly. So it was kind of
that
hard.
was weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, we were waiting. I feel like everyone was just waiting for like, okay, where's the Easter egg? Where's the reference? Where's the hint?
That
something,
something.
And we got nada.
We got a setup for a sequel, but we didn't get set up for any of that Spider-Man Homecoming, which Spider-Man is in New York and Venom was in San Francisco, so it's possible.
And he did come from New York.
He did come from New
York.
So,
I mean, if we want to like try to just squeeze out one little hint, maybe.
That was probably that was the closest. A little shout out to.
So maybe he'll be like, well, I want to go back to New York for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe.
Which at this point, if they're going with the current timeline, the idea is that Eddie Brock already has a personal hatred to Spider-Man, to Peter Parker, to both. And so you can't, I don't know, I feel like this Tom Harlan character we've known.
Tom Hardy. Oh, no, Spider-Man. Okay.
Yeah. He hasn't.
They're both Toms.
Right, I realized. Good point.
Tom H.
Yeah, he didn't do any. He hasn't seemed like he would do something that would make you so angry and hate him.
Yeah, I know.
So
defeat him.
I can't see Eddie Brock being like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and beat up, Tom Hardy, or not Tom Hardy, Tom Holland. There you go, mixing up. Which kind of is like, wait a minute, he's just like young.
I know. I was gonna say it's also like a grown man, and he's gonna go, I'm gonna go fight this teenager. Like that'd be a little weird.
We'll see how that plays out if they decide to go with it, which I can see them doing it. I hope they do. You just have to have that interaction,
right?
It can't be excluded.
Hopefully not.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
And hopefully Michelle Williams ups her game in the next movie.
I was trying to think too. I'm like, okay, because Michelle Williams is a good actress. It's just I was thinking maybe, I don't know if it's just material, right? Okay, so her hair was throwing me off. Like I guess I'm just used to seeing a pixie cut or something, or not even that necessarily. But
if you look at her roles, she always has long hair when in real life she has short hair.
But this one just looked very like a wig. Like the
studio.
And if it wasn't, then they styled it like it was. Like,
yeah, it was bad. It was.
But
bad. It's distracting.
It was distracting. But her character just, had no. Like I didn't need. There was no real reason for her to be there. I mean, I know it was Eddie's fiance at one point, and he loved her, but. I don't know. Her character didn't make a mark on me. She didn't leave me with an impression.
Right.
She was just there to just be there.
Like she had the use in the beginning that she had connections to the foundation that they were testing the symbiotes that Carlton Drake was involved with, which then Eddie Brock gets his hands on, and that spurs where she gets fired. That in itself, what we talked about, it was like.
There was no room for mercy or anything.
You got me fired.
She's like, you got me fired. It's over. Take your ring. We're never speaking again. Like
I think if I'm trying to recall correctly, the dialogue may have indicated that he's done similar behavior where it's not about them, it's just about him, or the job, whatever.
I think they did,
but they didn't show us that. They only show us like. And I was like, man.
And then 6 months had elapsed, and she was already living with another guy in a relationship, like, full on. Like, what are you doing here, Eddie? Like,
I will say,
moved on quick.
Has become like the best boyfriend that is not a major role in a movie. And I say best because he was like so helpful. He was like caring, and he was like, I know you're the ex, but. You look sick. Come. Let me take care of you.
I'm a doctor. Let me help you.
Right.
I'm like, Michelle Williams, you better hold on to this one. He's a good.
I was like
that
guy. And he was like he was
he left more of an impression on me than she did.
Exactly.
Like I was getting more enjoyment out of watching him.
I was like, can he stay? You can go, Michelle Williams.
Right, seriously.
You go do your lawyer thing somewhere. But yeah, it was one of those things and I feel like the sequel. I mean, we know the sequel is going to be Carnage, which is to like he's like very, very violent. Like that's his character is violent. So I don't think it's going to go any darker than what we saw.
Yeah.
But I feel like hopefully they decide to show interest in the other characters with Eddie Brock, because Eddie Brock was great. You know, you actually got a sense of, you know, he's just trying to be a reporter, and it felt like a modern day reporter, except some of the things you pointed out that
him looking for the
looking
in the classified section of the newspaper, and
it's called Indeed.com,
and listening to the 2008 Bay Area song, super hyphy.
which was a nice surprise for us.
That was cool.
But,
that was nice.
Yeah, that was.
But it was just like it's old. Like,
right.
Why
that choice?
This?
Yeah, why that choice?
I did like his character though. I will say I think Tom Hardy did a great job playing him. And you had mentioned we had that movie Upgrade with his doppelganger.
Yeah.
And you noticed, and they both are being controlled by this kind of thing in their mind. So that was interesting that you pointed that out. But it was believable, and I think he did really. It was really fun to watch. It was really engaging to see him kind of be like, no, I don't want to do this, and then Venom's like, no, you're doing this, and kind of force him to do, you know, or defend himself, or whatever, you know, whatever kind of controlling him. It was good, and from an acting standpoint, he did really well. I was believable. His reactions were like organic and natural. I liked it, and I mean, he's a good actor. So
and when he became Venom, and the thing was, it was actually him voicing Venom too, as well.
Was it?
Yeah,
I could see that.
So him being able to switch that to like give it a distinct personality, where Venom is. The thing is, Venom is not cocky in the sense that he knows it all, or he knows what to do. Because he said himself he's a loser on his world.
Yeah, he did say that.
But yet he still has this confidence that Eddie Brock lacked, which was a nice interest. Because like we saw the moments where they were like, "What are we gonna do?" And you know, Eddie Brock's thinking of like, you know, trying to climb a building. He's like, you know, like just tell me, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Or when he's like, we need to jump out of the building, and he took the elevator and he called him the P word. So like those kinds of things where it's just like it was a nice dynamic, which is interestingly, Venom in the comics does not actually talk to Eddie Brock in that same way. So like that like inner monologue doesn't happen in the comics.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So it was a nice new thing added, and I really liked it. I feel like it helps. It helps as a movie. It makes it better because if you just saw Eddie Brock talking to himself of just like no, don't do it, and then he does it. It gives it a different tone compared to like someone's telling him, you know, oh, we can do this.
Yeah, like there's a conversation.
Like, right. Oh, I want to attack that person. He's a bad guy. I need to eat him. Like it made it fun.
Yeah, it did. And I even liked at the end because they do. I feel like at sometimes Venom overpowers Eddie, and at other times Eddie is telling Venom what's going to happen. Like I feel like they kind of have this shared sense of power at certain times.
Right.
Like even at the end when. I'm trying to think. He had said something, and Venom was like, "Let's do this," and Eddie was like, "No, we're not doing that," or something like. I'm trying to remember what the lines were, but
biting someone's head off.
Some probably most likely, and he's like, "No," or he was explaining to him, "Some people are good, not everyone's bad," and then Venom was like, "Well, how do we know?" And Eddie was kind of like teaching him. It was like a teaching moment, but it was nice because now it's like Eddie's in control right now, and kind of, you know, teaching Venom some things. So it's I like that.
Yeah,
it's a balance. It was a good, well balanced. I feel like the inner dialogues and the inner conversations. Yeah,
I agree. I absolutely agree. So with all that being said, what was your favorite scene in this movie?
I really laughed. This movie did have. I know I said like whatever. I gave it a lot of critiques, but this movie was really fun and entertaining to watch. And I really liked the scene when he went to the restaurant and he showed up and to try to find his.
Yes.
What's her name? What's the character's name?
Something Wyming. I forgot her first name.
Okay, well, the girlfriend, the fiance, and she was with her day. And
Michelle Williams. Here you go,
Michelle Williams. I know, Michelle. Taking it back.
Anne Wyming. Wying. There you go. Anne Wying is the name, so you can say that.
Anne Wying?
Wying. Weying.
Anne. Oh, so her first name's Anne?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, so when he showed up, and this was like right when towards the beginning when Venom had attached to him and he didn't know
out,
what was going on, and he was hungry and really, really hungry and
hot
and sweating. So he showed up at the restaurant and he's like going crazy, and like Venom's kind of like, ooh, food, and like he's like grabbing things and he's shoving it in his mouth, and he jumps in the lobster tank, and that was really just fun to watch. He was very, very the energy in that scene from him was really, really cool.
Yeah,
and it was interesting. I knew exactly when we cut to that scene at the start of that scene, and it was a close up of the lobster tank. I knew he was gonna bite into the lobster. I just knew it. Like I mean, it doesn't take much to predict that. Right. Like Venom will eat, people's heads. So I was like, he'll for sure eat this lobster. But I knew that's what they were gonna do.
That's funny.
So, but that was probably one of my favorite scenes.
I agree. That's definitely a good one. Personally, the one that I really enjoyed was the scene where he was fighting the officers, because Venom like revealed himself and started actually fighting. Because that was like legit the moment that you finally got to see Venom in action correctly. Because Venom in Spider-Man 3 wasn't as accurate look wise. They had the face correct, but like body scale, that's usually what you envision Venom as. And so it's finally to see that and to see him, fight and fight accurately with his tongue all out and all that. It was really, really great to see. To finally see that happen. Yes, it was like finally. It was like, we've had every other Spider-Man villain done right, and now we're getting to Venom being done right to that degree.
Yeah.
A lot of things that need to be worked on for the sequel. It's going to be very interesting to see Woody Harrelson and Tom Hardy go at each other, because both of them seem like they're going to have that kind of like twist. Well, Woody Harrelson is going to have that twisted character, but to see Eddie Brock and Venom kind of have that, like, they're starting to bond. They're starting to get used to each other. To see that dynamic is going to be very interesting. Because Carnage is actually kind of very odd, but is like the son of Venom. Like it comes from Venom. The symbiote that the serial killer that was in jail gets is from Venom. I don't know if they're going to do that in the movies. So it's kind of like an offspring, but it bonds with this serial killer as well. So they both are comfortable in the
that just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
So, which should be entertaining, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully they fix a lot of things that made this movie just okay. And that's the part that it's entertaining, but it's just good. It's not great, and that's always the bummer. You always want it to be great.
Yeah. You just want to walk away with something like,
well worth, yeah. I mean, still well worth money spent, but maybe on a Tuesday, on a $5 Tuesday.
Maybe being one of the 3 films you're allowed to see with your AMC stubs,
right,
for the week,
or your Movie Pass. Is that still around?
Is that still a thing? Does that still exist?
Felt like it was so long. It was July when that all thing went down, but.
When the incident happened.
The day we should not recall. All right, Donnie, so what is going to be your real score for Venom?
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I know.
Spoiler.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We had the same score.
Wow, okay.
Is this like the first
Remember
time
when we were like getting the same scores, like for like a couple episodes straight, we were doing the same exact score. Yeah, 3 out of 5. It like we said before, it was an interesting film I'm not interesting. It was a fun, entertaining film to watch. Like it definitely was. You're not bored. And it is fun. It's you're on a ride, but there was just it was a little lackluster, and like I personally said, I thought it was going to be more darker. I was hoping there would have been a little more. I don't want it to be like super gory or gruesome, but like I wanted to see Venom actually biting a head off, like, and not just like, oh, I'm gonna bite a head off and then like do it
take
off
the motion,
or do it off screen or do it in the shadow or something. Like I would have liked to have seen that a little more, but I thought it was good. I thought it was, Tom Hardy did great. I liked the characters, and I do want to see a sequel, just to see where it goes, and if they can amp it up a little more, hopefully. But 3 out of 5 is what I'd give it.
Yes, same score for me as well. To me, it's like right below what you expect with Marvel. With Marvel movies, there's some depth to them now, at least. Before, like a lot of times before, it was just like what are wow factors and comedy. Now there's actually started to be some development. But no, I really do think that it was a entertaining film that you are watching because you're hooked by either Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, or Venom, or when they combine the both. So either one of those gets you hooked that you just want to see the character continue more, and you kind of wanting that more Venom scene, so you get excited when Venom's on screen. But yeah, a lot of things that need to be fixed for plot-wise, supporting character-wise as well. To the point where it's just like you don't care what happens to them. You don't care if they're even in the movie the rest of the time. Like when Michelle Williams' character Anne, no one will hear saying Michelle Williams. When Anne dumps him, I was content that she wasn't going to be like. I was like, all right, we're done with her, and she ain't gonna be in the rest of the movie. And she comes back, and I was like, oh, never mind. And if her boyfriend, who is a less of a role, is getting like our attention, then you're doing something wrong as a love interest. Although I do want to mention, what did you think of She-Venom, which was when she was...
So I did get excited when I saw that, and two things happened. I got excited because I was like, oh, nice, and like I don't know, in the comics, do they team up?
Yes.
Or they okay? So that's
that has happened before.
Okay, that's what I assumed, and so I got excited when I saw her, but then I also got a little not annoyed, but I was just like, oh, here we go, plot convenience, that it was just a perfect match, and she didn't die from...
It was a nice visual.
Yeah,
but
visually it was nice. It was really cool. It was dope. So I liked it.
And then they kissed.
Yeah.
It was like Venom kissed Eddie Brock, essentially. Kind of. And
then,
it was like, oh, just kidding. Here's
just
your
kidding.
girl.
Psych.
Here's your girl. Here, take her. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see
One thing I did want to point out before I forget, I forgot to mention, I did like the score of the movie.
Yes, you did.
I did. I thought that the scenes when Venom was on screen, the music was very daunting and very kind of like nightmarish, like hellish. And I just wish it would have matched like the scenes.
Right,
I wish the scenes could have been like that too. But I feel like, I really liked the music. It really did get me more in the moment and more excited and like, oh my God, it's Venom. Like, just very chilling music. Beautifully scored, I thought.
Very well said. All right. Well, hopefully everyone, you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think about the movie Venom. Let us know if you liked it, disliked it, if you think that this was one of the worst movies, because there's some people that are saying that it's one of the worst movies. It's very similar to Catwoman. And
I think this one was way better than Catwoman.
That's
people are comparing it to Catwoman.
That's what online people are saying. But then again, a lot of times there's the whole debate of like, are you just saying this because it's not a Marvel Disney movie? That's a whole nother episode. But let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your honest opinion in the comments on YouTube, or you can just... Where else can I respond? On social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. At Team Reel-ists, that's Team R. Oh, wait, no. Team REELISTS. No dash.
There you go.
But thank you for tuning into this episode. Have a good one. See you guys. Until next time.